I think what is so vital and important to remember here is that when we see big feelings in our children or our teenagers, it is not because they are bad, it is not because they are wrong, it is because they are learning, and it is our job to teach them how to navigate these feelings and emotions in a healthy way. So, to bring it back to why kids may have some feelings, I talk about there is a need for assistance. So sometimes, when a child is upset or angry, it's because they need some help. It's because they need food. It's because there's a need that we can meet. And when we meet that need, they feel fine. Sometimes when kids are upset, it's because there's a great need for information as well, which is that loud noise there was a truck going by, to a little person. If they're worried, you give them information, helps them understand. For some children, they need to know, we're leaving in 10 minutes and we're going to go to this place and this person will be here and this will happen and that will happen. And that gives them the information that makes them feel, okay, I can understand what's going on. But the third thing that I see a lot of is there's just these unmet feelings or buildups of stresses or tensions that may have happened throughout their day, or even traumas that have happened in the past that get tapped into, and that's when big feelings pop up. So when we usually meet those first two levels there of food or comfort or sleep or some help tying your shoelaces or information, usually when we meet those needs, children are fine. But it's the third one, the bigger feelings and emotions that are there, that I find parents often struggle with and want to know why are you upset? What's wrong? How do I fix it straight away? But I think one of the most important things we can understand as parents is our job is not to fix our children, but to stand beside them and help them navigate the feelings that go with it. Because when we launch into just kind of fixing or trying to band-aid whatever's going on, we are robbing our children of the ability to develop resilience and the ability to navigate hard things or big feelings and emotions and find their way back into balance. So this is why I often say that meltdowns are very, very good for the brain, particularly for our younger children. So up until about the age of 7 or 8, their prefrontal cortex, which is that rational thinking part of their brains, is still developing. So when they have a buildup of tension, so when their nervous system hits capacity, just like Jack, when we get to the point where, we've had a big day of all this pressure and then something little goes wrong, then what happens is that prefrontal cortex often goes offline. So if you know the work of Dan Siegel, he talks about it flipping its lid. And then what happens is the amygdala and the nervous system has to reset itself. And the way it resets itself is by crying, by raging, by laughing. And so many of you will have experienced that when you cut your child's sandwich the wrong way or give them the wrong colored cup, or their sister has more ice cream than them, when they have a big, massive meltdown around that whole thing, after they've had, this isn't fair and I don't like you and all those kind of big feelings, it often then moves into tears, and then it'll move into wanting some comfort and those big sobs. And then you'll watch their whole little bodies just kind of soften and drop. And then they'll be like, what's for dinner? And it's like nothing has ever happened, right? The storm has passed, because the brain and the body has done exactly what it needs to, which is it has discharged all that stress and tension and trauma. It's found its way back into balance and it can feel calm again. So many parents will have experienced, a massive storm coming, and then you come out the other side, and it's usually the parents that are sitting there going, oh my God, what just happened? And as the child's come back into balance. Now, as adults, or really after the age of 7 or 8, we start to develop the language and the tools to go, I am angry, this is what I need to do with my anger, or I am really sad, I need to have a cry or a talk to my friend. But for our little people, they are still learning how to do this. And so even in our teenage years, when teenagers get angry or get upset, it's not a bad thing. They're trying to discharge these feelings and emotions. It's why I often say teenagers will come in and try and pick fights with adults, even on things that you agree on. They'll often come in and just kind of poke and provoke, because what they're trying to do is find something to push up against, so that they've got a reason to discharge some of the tensions and feelings that they've got going on there. And I guess the goal within all this is to make it safe enough for our kids to feel all these feelings, to develop language around it, so that they then can develop into adults who, when they do feel upset, are able to tune into that and go, gosh, I feel really sad, I'm going to call a friend. or I'm so angry, I can feel this all in my body. I need to go for a run. I've got to do some yoga. You know, I need to put on loud music and dance and thrash about, because I can feel a whole lot of stuff here that I need to move in a safe way instead of, you know, the other ways that we usually do with it. So part of, again, what we're doing here is helping to model to our children right from the beginning that feelings and emotions are okay. So here's a little quote that I have, which really is about the benefits of crying and the benefits of releasing these emotions, which are so much about helping our nervous system come back online, but also the healing aspects. You know, I talk about releasing tears and emotions is our natural inbuilt healing mechanism that allows us to come back into balance when we have been really, really off track. And many of you as adults will feel this too. You know, when you feel stuff brewing and then you have a big cry, how do we feel afterwards? We feel calmer. We feel like I can cope. There is more space to figure out what we need to do from here. So the healing benefits of crying and releasing our feelings are so paramount. But I think it's important to remember that we have been brought up in a culture that has often made this wrong. And that's why it often feels very, very uncomfortable for us as humans.
Well, I think you've just described there so beautifully. One of the biggest things that move the needle in parenting is the understanding and acceptance of children's emotional meltdowns, seeing the benefit of it and the power of it in terms of how it brings the body back into some level of balance again. But also probably the biggest challenge, because our ability to accept our children's emotions is often very reflected in how we accept our own emotions. And therein lies the work of parenting. So that is a real needle mover right there.